All right, today we are going to complete a lesson on argumentative writing, and we need to make sure that we have all of our vocabulary and understanding in place before we get started. So today we're going to be talking about how to identify the issue and claim. So remember, this is our blueprint or graphic organizer. This is what you could use to plan your argumentative text, this argumentative pillar right here. The introduction begins with a lead or a hook. Remember, that hook can be a quote, a question, a statistic, a descriptive segment, any of those things. And the claim statement. Remember, the claim is what you believe. It's your opinion. The body of the text is made up of a number of the paragraphs, each focused on some aspect of the argument, which are the main reasons. Main reasons are then supported by evidence-based details. This is not just your opinion. We really need you to have some evidence-based details. And then the conclusion sums up the author's claim and the main reasons. Remember, in that conclusion paragraph, we're going to restate our claim and main idea and main reasons, and then tie back to our hook or lead. Argumentative essays are built on the foundation of an author's position, an issue, an author's position, which is also known as a claim. An author's position is a claim. So whatever you're claiming is basically your belief. It's your position on it. So an issue is a matter of importance that needs to be examined and resolved. So if we're thinking narratively, it's the problem. The claim is your attitude or opinion or perspective on an issue. And then from your claim, you're choosing your position in this issue. So for example, if the issue was, should students be allowed to wear hats in school? One author's position might be, no, hats can be a distraction. And remember, we call that author's position also a claim. Or the alternate position could be, yes, hats are just another article of clothing. So when we think about our author's claim, we have to choose a pro or a con. Either a pro, that means you're in favor of, in support of, yes, thumbs up, or a con, which means you're in opposition against, no, anti, thumbs down. Okay, so if we were thinking about hats in school, what would be your position? These claim statements are going to read something like this, like I support the right to wear hats in school, or I'm in favor of allowing hats in school. My position is pro-hat. Yes, hats should be allowed in school. Thumbs up for hats. Those are all pro claims. Okay? Remember, the claim statement is it's the position in sentence form. Or con, I oppose the wearing of hats in school. I'm against wearing hats in school. My position is anti-hat. No, hats should not be allowed in school. Thumbs down on hats in school. So when it comes to making your claim statement, you're either for or against, and then you're going to make that into a sentence that shows whether you're for or against. So let's look at this introduction. To the editor. Concerned citizens are all talking about the possible demolition of the stores on Elm Street in the center of town. These old historic buildings were once beautiful for sure, and it's a shame that they have not been maintained. The question is, should the town invest $1 million to restore these buildings, or should the buildings be torn down to make way for some open space, a park for the residents to enjoy? Once we've examined all the facts, it becomes clear that we really must preserve these nostalgic and graceful landmarks. So you can see, what is the issue? What's the problem? The demolition of these stores in the center of town. That's the problem. Should we demolish them, tear them down, or should we not? What is the author's claim? You can see it marked right here. Once we've examined all the facts, it becomes clear that we really must preserve these nostalgic and graceful landmarks. So this person is against tearing them down. Preserve means to keep them. This person is against tearing them down. However, Jessica has the opposite. She says to the editor, there isn't a person in town who isn't concerned about the debate over whether to restore the 3 old Victorian storefronts in the middle of Eastville Center or tear them down to make room for a park. So here's the issue again. Do we tear the buildings down or not? This is an important question for all of us, and it's critical to consider all of the pros and cons. After careful consideration of the issue, it is apparent that a public park is the responsible choice for the future of Eastville. So this person is pro tear it down. She wants to tear them down. The issue, of course, is still, do we tear them down or not? And her claim is, we should tear them down so that we can have a park. The most effective argument is one that provides the most convincing evidence to support the claim. Those kind of evidence-based arguments can be testimonials, where someone gives their expert opinion. It could be first-hand evidence. It could be specific examples. They could be reasons, research, anecdotes, like a personal example, surveys, quotes, or statistics. We don't want to just come in there and say well, this is my opinion and you should just believe me. We have to have some evidence that backs it up. So let's read and discuss. Did the author effectively support his claim? Whether you agree or not, can you accept that his argument is valid? So it says, concerned citizens are all talking about the possible demolition of stores on Elm Street in the center of town. These old historic buildings were once beautiful for sure, and it's a shame that they have not been maintained. The question is, should the town invest $1 million to restore these buildings, or should the buildings be torn down to make way for some open space, a park for the residents to enjoy? Once we've examined all the facts, it becomes clear that we really must preserve these nostalgic and graceful landmarks. Eastville is known both for its quaint and charming houses and shops for the beautiful countryside surrounding them. In fact, this is what draws people to Eastville and why many of them have become lifelong residents. While the 3 Victorian storefronts in question have peeling paint, loose shutters, and rickety stairs, to many this is not considered an eyesore. In fact, many residents of Eastville believe this vintage look adds to the old-fashioned charm of downtown. Bulldozing these buildings to the ground would leave a gaping hole that will surely be filled with stores and franchises that belong to national chains. The unique town center of Eastville would be immediately transformed into any town USA. As a lifelong resident of Eastville who hopes to grow old here, I believe that the promise of a park is insufficient compensation for the loss of the local architectural style and historical color that defines our town. It's obvious that the people in Eastville are concerned about the economy and committed to supporting small businesses in town. This support is crucial if we are to keep our downtown areas vital and busy. I can understand that some citizens are concerned about the cost of the restoration. However, it will only provide retail space for local businesses, but bring much needed tax dollars to town. The streets will bustle with stylish restaurants, perhaps a trendy boutique, or even a cozy coffee shop to stop in while running errands in town. The other advantage of this is it would eliminate our dependence on the mall. I speak for myself and many of my neighbors when I say we are tired of having to travel to the Westville Mall every time we want to eat out or shop for a gift. Clearly, the cost of transforming these glorious old buildings would be balanced by the restoration's boost to our local economy. Opponents of restoration think that we need to preserve and promote open spaces such as town lands and forests, and it is hard to disagree. After all, the environment is critically important to all of us, but is a park in the center of downtown where a diversity of wildlife couldn't possibly thrive really an environmental plus? A more suitable place for a park would be in the beautiful woods and wetlands that surround Eastville. A more ecologically responsible plan might be to have our zoning board restrict our new construction in undeveloped places where animals, plants, and birds make their homes. A wildlife refuge with nature trails, a picnic area, and a nature center would offer more environmental and recreational benefits than a small park required between the downtown retail area. We must think not only about the history of Eastville, but its future. By supporting the restoration of the ornate Victorian storefronts on Elm Street, we can preserve our town's history while bolstering our economy and protecting our environment. Without a doubt, the people of Eastville will be proud that they preserved these historic buildings for many generations to come. So, what is his claim? We should not tear these down. What are his main reasons? The first one is that it creates a charming place to live. It makes their town unique. Remember, he referred to, if we tear it down, it's going to look like any town USA. His supporting details and examples, he's got the stylish restaurants, trendy boutiques. He includes an anecdote, some personal examples of how he's tired of having to drive to the Westville Mall every time to go out to eat or shop. He also points out that this would not be a great environmental space because it's downtown for a park. and for the wildlife that would use that park. When we look at Jessica Ramirez's letter, and I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but we can see that she says it would be a prohibitive cost to keep these. It would cost too much money to keep these. She also says it would create traffic, and she gives some specific details about how a park would help. It would create a lovely park bench where people could go and enjoy. It would create a centrally located playground where they could meet other parents, town gatherings. So she has some different anecdotal evidence, but each of them has valid argumentation for why we should include a park. So if Tom and Jessica had stated their claims like this, would they be likely to change anyone's mind about the issue? Everyone's talking about whether to tear down the old storefronts on Elm Street. That's a really stupid idea. They've been there forever. Just fix them up. Then a cool store can go in there. That's what I think. Or if Jessica had said, do we fix up the old buildings on Elm Street or do we tear them down? Duh, of course we tear them down. The buildings are falling apart and look awful. The smart thing to do is to put a park there. I say tear them down. If they had stated their claims like this, would they be likely to change anyone's mind about the issue? Probably not, because they use language like dumb and duh and stupid, and so you don't want to offend your reader. So here is some things to remember about effective and ineffective arguments. It's difficult to always encourage someone to see things from your point of view, but this is the challenge of argument writing, and this is the challenge of winning any argument, whether it's written or oral. Support your point of view with evidence so it's considered valid even by those who might disagree. So you want to present a number of clear, compelling facts that support your claim. For example, if you state a claim that the local power plant poses an environmental hazard, you might present some statistics that project an increase in pollution. You can also support your claim with anecdotal evidence drawn from personal experience. Maybe about how the increase in pollution has worsened your asthma, or it has created these, dirty spots within your neighborhood. You can also acknowledge your reader's sense of fairness, responsibility, caring, and intelligence. Be sensitive when addressing the shortcomings of the opposing point of view. So don't call people stupid. Don't call them names. Don't question their intelligence for believing as they do. You're only going to offend that person. And if you offend them, they will never see your side. You also need to anticipate the arguments of those supporting the opposite view and address them with viable fact-based alternatives. So when you have someone present an opposing point of view, you need to see ahead of time, well, they're going to think this, so I need to find research to present against that. All right? So when we talk about argumentative writing, remember, you want to state your claim for or against, pro or con, and then you want to make sure that you have evidence-based supporting arguments.